All right, Sergio, Canelo Alvarez said after his win over Caleb Plant, he will wait until January before making a decision about his next fight. We are into January, and if you believe what Canelo said on an interview on Fox Sports pay-per-view, he still has not decided on what's next. So I'll ask you this, who should be Canelo Alvarez's first fight in 2022?
Look, Mannix, I know that everyone wants him to move up and face the monsters at 175, but there's time for that. Let the monsters eat each other, I say. There's one name at 168 that he still needs to conquer. That's David Benavidez. Former champion, undefeated, young, strong, fast hands. Benavidez will be a perfect style matchup as well. Fast hands, strong puncher, tall, and he has a fan base as well. Mexican-American, that fight would do great Cinco de Mayo weekend. It lines up right. I say David Benavidez, remove all doubt. Bandera Roja is next for me.
Yeah, I don't mind a fight against David Benavidez, and I'll be honest, I'm pretty disappointed that the Gennady Golovkin-Ryota Murata fight fell through for December, because I thought if Golovkin looked good in that fight, the timing would have made sense for Canelo Golovkin 3 in May. But if I'm making a list, I'm probably going to put Dimitri Bivol on it. Now, I should say right off the top that Dimitri Bivol did not earn his shot with the way he fought in his last fight. And really, over the last few years, Dimitri Bivol has not looked great. He continues to win, but the destroyer that we saw coming up the ranks and fighting on HBO has not been present in recent fights. But Dimitri Bivol does have a title at 175. And Canelo Alvarez is going to campaign at some point at light heavyweight to try to become the undisputed champ at light heavyweight. A fight with Bivol is very easy to make, and it's a fight that would mean something for Canelo.
Wait a minute, you're making a case for Dimitri Bivol, who hasn't looked good in the last couple of fights, but you're not going to make a case for your number one guy, Demetrius Andrade? Andrade deserves it. He's undefeated. He's a former champion in 2 divisions. Why not preach his name anymore? Did you forget about him already? Look at how fickle you are, Mannix.
Okay, I've forgotten about Demetrius Andrade. Yes, that's correct. How dare I not talk more about Demetrius Andrade? Look, if you're asking me if either of the 2 middleweight champions at 160, Andrade or Charlo, who deserves a fight with Canelo more, it's Andrade. I mean, Andrade has been out there doing everything he can to secure a big fight, and nobody has given it to him. And
then why don't you say Demetrius Andrade? Why did you jump a division and go straight to Bivol?
Because Andrade right now is at 160. Jermall Charlo right now is at 160. I'm okay with Benavidez because Benavidez is a top contender at the moment at 168 pounds. And I say Bivol because I think it certainly is in the mind of Canelo Alvarez to try to become undisputed at 175. And to do that, you've got to take the title that belongs to Dimitri Bivol.
Niet. I disagree.
Well, Sergio, Jake Paul doesn't have many supporters in the combat sports community, but Chael Sonnen is one of them. Sonnen said recently that the reason that boxers and MMA fighters are so upset at Jake Paul is because they are jealous of Jake Paul and they should learn the art of self-promotion from him. So, Sergio, you are a former boxer. Do you believe fighters are jealous of Jake Paul?
Chris Mannix, you referred to me as a fighter. Watch your mouth. I'm a former champion, and I never heard of this Chael Sonnen. So I'm not going to speak of him because I never seen him fight. He can be a legend in the other side of combat sports, of MMA. Good for him. To me, he's a wrestler, not a boxer. And no, I am not jealous of a Jake Paul. And I'm not hating on what he does. Great for him. I keep saying it. Make your money, son. Just don't make it in the sport that I've shed blood in, that I dedicated my life to. What I've done all my life, and you're coming to infiltrate the sport by doing your buffoonery, I'm not going to allow it unless you're doing it against a professional fighter. You do it against a professional fighter. He could be a loser. He could be a 50-50 tomato can. As long as he has a resume in professional boxing, then I can respect it. But not against a wrestler, not against an MMA has-been that's 40 years old, a basketball player, a football player, a boxer. Then you can get some respect out of a Latin snake.
All right, do you believe that Jake Paul's fights, the fights themselves, especially the ones in 2021, have been embarrassing type fights?
No, they haven't. They've been a sideshow. And I would watch, but I just don't want to watch them instead of professional fights of champions. I would love to see these fights being a side attraction. Yeah, that's cool. They can do that. But if they want to come into our sport, let them face boxers. Don't call yourself a professional boxer. Don't let you who work for Sports Illustrated, you're a boxing writer, you're giving them attention. Networks and platforms are giving them attention. They're giving them the main event. Don't do that. That's when you start disrespecting the sport. I'm not a fan of that.
Two things. One, Sergio, if you could do what Jake Paul has done, if you could have done that early in your career, you absolutely would. If anybody gave a damn about Sergio Mora against Tyron Woodley or Ben Askren or any of those other ex-MMA guys that have taken a shot at Jake Paul, you would have done it. That's not a shot I'm directing at you specifically. Every boxer in the world would do it. Jake Paul has sold more pay-per-views in 2021 than any non-heavyweight other than Canelo. He has raked in the kind of cash that fighters early in their careers simply do not do. So if you could do what he's been doing, you would do it as well. And Jake Paul, he's not a guy that doesn't take boxing seriously. Like, he brought in BJ Flores, a former cruiserweight contender, to be his head trainer. BJ told me recently that they sit up every morning and when they're together and they watch film of boxing. They watch Andre Ward. They watch Vladimir Klitschko. They watch Roy Jones. Jake Paul is doing everything he can to take boxing as seriously as he can. And all these other fighters that are criticizing him, including you, yeah, you are jealous because you wish you could do at that stage of your career what Jake Paul has been doing. And if you had an opportunity tomorrow, Sergio, if Jake Paul said, I want to fight Sergio Mora next, you would be calling Dean Campos today and you would be in his gym tomorrow. You know you would, because a big paycheck comes with fighting Jake Paul.
Look, I would take the easy money and the easy paycheck. Of course I will, and go fight this clown. But at least he's going to be fighting a former champion. You know, at least he's going to be fighting someone that won't give him an opportunity to land a haymaker with his eyes closed like he did against Woodley. No boxer, no professional fighter is going to get hit with that one punch. I mean, slap yourself. The only fighters that are getting hit with those haymakers are these guys that he's facing, these Nate Robinsons and these Gibson or whatever these guys' names are. But a fighter will not get hit by that. And look, yes, I give him credit for going into our sport, bringing in, you know, BJ Flores, good boxer, bringing in a good corner. I give him credit for that. He shed blood, you know, he's taking some punches. Give him credit for that. He's sparring. Give him credit. All right, but do it against a boxer. Until you do it against a boxer, then a boxer and a former champion can give you credit for it. Other than that, you, Mannix, you a sports writer, a boxing writer for Sports Illustrated, shouldn't give him this attention until he does it the right way.
You know, it's really goofy that people like you, and I heard this from Clarissa Shields as well, thought that punch that hit Woodley was a lucky punch. Like, it wasn't a lucky punch. It was a good shot. And I think he set up that shot with some things that were leading into that punch. More importantly, like, he fought Tyron Woodley only because Tommy Fury withdrew. Tommy Fury is a professional boxer. He has, 7 professional fights. So your issue with Jake Paul is that, and this is really the first year of his career. Like, this year was the first year he got really into boxing. Main event in 3 fights. Your issue with Jake Paul, would it be, would you change your mind entirely if in 2022 he beats Tommy Fury and he beats Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.? If he fought Chavez Jr. in his 7th pro fight, something nobody really does, would you then take him more seriously?
I would take him seriously if he just fought Fury. At least you can call him a professional fighter. Yes,
then hold on, Sergio, then what? Like, he signed on to fight Fury. He was willing to fight Fury. Why are you penalizing him for Fury pulling out of the fight?
I'm not penalizing him. It just didn't happen, so we can't talk about it. That's it. Until he does it, until he actually steps in the ring with a professional fighter, can professional fighters give him credit. Other than that, they're a sideshow. And another thing, I read your article about the breakthrough athlete in boxing, and you give it to him, to Jake Paul. You don't give it to Boots Ennis or Virgil Ortiz or these other up-and-coming boxers. You give it to a reality guy. It blows my mind, Mannix, that you're giving him the outlet and this respect as a boxer and a fighter when he doesn't deserve it yet. Let him face the fighter, then I'll give you the credit.
He has brought in new fans.
Doesn't matter. He hasn't brought in nothing. He hasn't brought in nothing as far as he hasn't brought in nothing to the sport if he hasn't faced a boxer.
You should ask Amanda Serrano what he's brought to the sport. You should ask Montana Love what he's brought to the sport. Fighters that have seen their worlds change, their lives change because of Jake Paul. Like, ask them what Jake Paul brings to the table. And with all due respect to Tony Bellew, who I love, I mean, one of my favorite fighters when he was active. Just like you, he would take that fight against Jake Paul tomorrow. So all these guys saying Jake Paul is an embarrassment, they would sign on the dotted line immediately if a contract was presented to them.
Easy money. Of course we sign on the this prize fighting. We'll fight for a prize and it'll be an easy fight. I'll wipe the floor with Jake Paul. It'll be an easy fight. I have no power. I'll knock him out in under 3 rounds. Easy money.
Is that belt just sitting in your living room?
You're damn right.